Us in the room, it'd be awesome. I have. We've been studying Romans for a while, and I promise we'll get back to Romans. But I'm just taking a little bit of a break for this week, switching gears just for a short time. Actually, I can't believe that we've made it. We're making it into the fifth chapter of Romans in our studies. I would have thought that we would have way more discussion, way more questions, but we've been moving along pretty well, which is good. I'm also doing a little trick. If you haven't noticed, I'm abbreviating things a little bit by summarizing whole entire chunks of the letter, things like that. But today, I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. I wanted to tell you about a need we have in our community. And so you're seeing the nice walls of Jerusalem right there, and you're wondering, what is this about? Yeah, that's beautiful walls from Middle Ages. Suleiman the Magnificent actually built those walls. That part right here, lower part, is more original. The higher part is from Middle Ages. But what I want to talk to you about is I want to ask you some questions and see if you can answer. And even kids could usually answer these questions. The questions are very simple. What is the central part of a synagogue service? What is the most important part? If you think about a synagogue service like a mountaintop experience, like what is our mountaintop experience? We kind of go up the mountain and we go down the mountain. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but our service is not shaped just in any way possible. We don't just throw things in there. There's usually a projection, a special journey that we get. And then we get to a certain point in our service, and there's like a mountaintop experience. And then we start going down little by little. And slowly, we finally get to the place where, okay, we're settled, the service is over, we're done. So what do you think is the central part of the service?
The Parsha?
I get different answers. I get Amidah. That is very important. I get Parsha, Torah, Torah reading. So you got the second question over there that kind of leads you to an answer. What practice has led Israel to knowledge of God since the days of Ezra and Nehemiah?
Oral Torah reading.
It's the reading of the Torah. It's actually reading and proclaiming it. I want you to realize that something happened in the history of Israel that has devastated the community, and in many ways, Israel has never, ever still recovered from that devastation. That devastation was the exile to Babylon. And the reason why people went into exile is because they were not following Hashem, they were not following His commandments. God has given us commandments not so that we could say, okay, sure, and forget about them. Unfortunately, we have short memory, and we need reminders.
We didn't just forget some of them. We were keeping none of them.
We were keeping none of them, exactly.
Even if you would keep the Shabbat, I would stay in my hand.
Yeah, so God brought Babylon upon us for a reason, and really it was a chastisement, a punishment for very good things, and the fact that we have neglected the very revelation that He's given us, the very words, the living words of God that we have received from Him. Nobody else got those. We have them. We have been given words upon words, instructions upon instructions, wisdom and knowledge and understanding about secrets, really, secrets about who is God and what is He like and what does He want from us. Yet we were somehow not fazed by it. I'm sure people kept them for a while, but we fell out of that. And so when Ezra and Nehemiah came back, when the return to the land happened, they instituted something. And they instituted the tradition of the public reading of the Torah. And until today, this tradition has not changed. Now, for 2,500 years, we have been reading Torah publicly from the Bima out loud to everyone so that everyone can hear. And of course, here we read not just in Hebrew, we also read in English. But in many places, people read just in Hebrew because everybody understands what the Hebrew is. And so we don't need translation. But here we read in translation. Why do we do that? Because it is important. Because it's what keeps us to know. How would we know the commandments of God if we were not told those commandments? If we don't hear them? We can rely on the fact that people are going to go home and read on their own. But the truth is, that doesn't always happen. That doesn't always happen. Unfortunately, busy life, all kinds of things take us away, and we just don't spend enough time reading the revelation that Hashem has given us. So one time that we get together, because we're resting on Shabbat anyway, and we can read those words and proclaim it together, think over them, meditate upon them, that is this time. So that's why our service is built the way it is. That's why the very peak, the very top, mountaintop experience in our service is the reading from the Torah Scroll. Everything kind of leads to that. And then after that, everything starts going down the mountain, if you haven't noticed. That's really how it works. It's a central point, a central moment in our service. And what you may or may not know, some of you do. Some of you come up over here to the bema, you kind of get to see what's going on over here. Some of you never get a chance to do that. I wanted to show you something. And the reason is because we need a new Torah Scroll. So on the left is a really nice portion of the Torah Scroll. You can see it's written. All the letters are just so. They're perfect. On the right is the beginning of the book of Leviticus. Right there. This is Vayikra. And if you could see, some of the letters are not so dark. They're starting to peel. The ink literally falls off. I wanted to tell you that the Torah scrolls, they're written on a skin of a kosher animal. They're written on lamb skin. The skin is treated in a very special way. There's no chemicals at all whatsoever in the Torah scroll. It is 100% natural. The skin is scrubbed and rubbed, and it is bleached with natural products to make it stand out so that it is lighter, so that you can write upon it. It is treated so it wouldn't age. It's treated so it wouldn't turn over years and years and years. And then a special ink is used, and the ink is, by the way, is a vegetable-based ink. It's a natural ink. It's not a chemical that is being used. And the skin, the ink is natural. It is written with a quill. You'd think that a sofer, a scribe, would actually use like a special tool to write with. You know, we have ink wells, we have ink pens, right? We've had them for a long time, but they actually use goose feather. Everything in the Torah is done 100% natural. There's no chemicals whatsoever. The Torah sheets that are written, if you notice, the Torah is in sections, right? Sometimes we lift it up and you see the seam. So those seams, they're sewn. They're sewn by hand. They're sewn by hand, and the string that holds it is actually a sinew that comes out of the lamb as well. So even the little threads in a Torah, they're made out of completely natural content. So everything in the Torah scroll is actually the same as it used to be in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. The technology of making the Torah scrolls has not changed. A few things that we've changed, you know, the rollers that we use are really nice wooden. They're not hand turned, they're actually machine turned. So because that's what makes them so uniform and perfectly round. But the scroll itself, the ketav, the writing, everything is quite ancient. So you could see the difference on the left side and the right side. So when I say we need a new Torah, some of you are starting to understand, because it's much harder to read letters that are peeling and not so clear. If you don't know this text very well, you actually will struggle reading it.
That's actually not the worst.
Yeah, that's not the worst. Yeah. So here's another one for you. Here's another text. You could see how some of the letters, they're just peeling off. What's happening is the ink is a little bit raised. When you write, you know how the ink bubbles up and then it finally dries and it sets. Well, sometimes it just pops off. So this happens. This happens to Torah scrolls. The Torah scroll that we use, the one that we use today in our service, it's like pushing 200 years. So that's why it's happening what's happening to it. Torah scrolls should be kept in an air-conditioned place. They should be kept in the drier places, but that hasn't been the case for the past 200 years, so you can imagine that Torah has not always been in an air-conditioned place. And humidity is like the worst thing that can happen to a Torah because it will affect the ink. And these are the kinds of things that happen to a scroll. So here's another passage. So imagine you're the one who called to read, and this is your chance to read from the Torah. And you've been studying and you've been practicing. You come to, and we roll to the passage you're supposed to read, and that's what it looks like. And that's the hard part. So that's why my heart breaks every week we roll. I actually pray that the person who gets to read from a passage that doesn't look like that. Every once in a while we come up on that, and we really don't have a choice. We just push through it, and we realize, yes, our Torah is almost 200 years old. We got to do what you got to do. But that's what it needs to look like. This I can read. This is easy. that's going to take some serious work. And if we were just talking about anything, it really wouldn't matter so much, except we're talking about God's very words. These are the words that came from God to Moshe, to us. You see what I mean? And that's why it's important that we preserve those words. There's so much care that's being put into the Torah scroll. You look at the scribal work, and you can recognize, look at how some of these letters are written. Look at that shin, and look how tiny little crowns come off of it. There are 7 letters in the Torah that receive special decorations. They're called tagim. They're called the crowns. So, and every once in a while, you will see, like right there, a letter, and it has a little crown. Right here's a letter, there's a little crown. So Ayin and Tzadi and Nun, they will have these little crowns. And they're beautiful. It's just a few little strokes to decorate the text. You can see how Aleph is turned just beautifully. It has these little branches branching out. It takes a lot of work for a scribe to actually do this. You want to guess how long it takes a scribe to write all 5 books of Moses by hand? Roughly. Can you imagine yourself sitting down and writing 5 books of Moses by hand? And not just writing like cursive, like quickly, but like actually drawing out letter after letter, doing something like that. How long would it take you? Well, it takes scribe roughly about a year. It takes them about a year to write all, and they do this every day except Shabbat. This is their job. They get up in the morning, they pray, they wash their hands, they sit down at their desk, turn on their light, and start working on the passage of the Torah. And yes?
If they make an error, they have to start over.
The errors can, if you write them by, that's why you write them by sections, by the way. So section by section, and then the sections are sewn together. If you make too many errors, then yes, it is discarded usually. But errors can be corrected. At this point, if the scribe is writing and he made a mistake, he wrote a wrong letter, or he forgot the letter, if he caught it early enough, he can actually fix it. There's a way to, while the ink is fresh, to remove the ink and do that.
Makes a mistake on the name of God.
Yeah. So there are means and traditions, and so every once in a while I see scrolls that have been repaired. I could tell where the scribe actually made a mistake, and then he had to correct himself. Every once in a while that happens. It doesn't happen often, and it never happens on purpose, obviously, because again, people realize what they're writing is God's very revelation, His Word. So for us, hopefully you understand why this is such an important part of the service. Like, this is us hearing from Hashem, exactly, word for word. In every one of these letters, you change one letter, you can actually change the meaning of the entire verse. There's a midrash out there about Solomon wanting to change a letter. He changed one letter in the Torah. He changed Yud in the commandment that says that a king should not multiply himself wives. And guess what happened? It changed the meaning of the verse. It no longer said a king shall not multiply himself wives. It said something else. The meaning changed, and now Solomon felt that he could have hundreds of wives. Why? Because that commandment has been changed. Changing one letter can have a big impact. But anyway, this is what our Torah scroll looks like. So the point, as I'm saying, is we need a new Torah. What you might not know, that I've actually been searching for a Torah for a long time, and I've been trying to find one. It's been like months I've been looking for it. Let's see, this is actually, let's see if I can get it to play or not. This is a video, but it's not playing. So this is actually Yosef reading. One of the weeks I took a picture of him reading. You can see how some of the letters are dark and some are not dark. So that's why for months and months and months I've been searching for Torah. But the Torah scrolls, they're a work of art. Each one of them is individual. And when we're talking about older Torahs, if you're not talking about brand new Torahs, it's like buying a used car. Like, you don't know. Like, does the engine work well? Is the transmission out? Like, I have to check every single one of them. I have to inspect them. I have to look at them. Is it good? You have to kick the tires, literally. Because if you're going to buy a scroll, it could have problems because it has age on it. So you don't know if something was ripped or torn or some portion of it faded. You want to have a good scroll that will last you for a long time. So I've actually been looking for for months. I've looked at dozens of Torahs. I don't know. I probably looked at least 20 scrolls, if not more. And many of them I just said, no, no, no. Some of them were very quick, no. Others I had to look really, really closely. There was one that I wish I could have bought that one because it was so beautiful, but it didn't work out. I was at the conference another week. I was traveling over in Florida, and they had a scroll, and the section of it that was enrolled was absolutely perfect. It was beautiful. It was just like as beautiful as the one we have. And I said, this is perfect. I want that one. But then as I went to inspect the scroll, I found portions of it that were damaged, water damage. There was actual water damage on it, and it would not have been readable at all. So there's several portions that were so badly water damaged that I said, I can't do this. I cannot spend money for a scroll like that. I'm trading one scroll that doesn't quite meet our needs because it's peeling for another scroll that's damaged. So I have to sort of say, be careful in finding one. So we need the Torah Scroll, and guess what? I found one. After weeks and weeks and weeks, found one. This is a beautiful scroll, and this particular scribe took some extra care. I don't know if you can see this or not. He took some of the tagim, and he actually enlarged them in tiers. He's not just a scribe whose penmanship is excellent, which you can see how beautiful this penmanship is. It's as if he's using a computerized font. That's how uniform it is. But he actually took it an extra level. He embellished the scroll by taking those crowns and growing them and making them. So in the places where he has margins, like at the top, he would take those 7 letters in the Torah and he would illuminate them a little bit more. This is a very, very unusual scroll. Let's put it this way. I've looked at so many scrolls in my life. I've seen scrolls from various ages and different times and different scribal traditions, different part of the world, of various antiquity. I've never seen one like that. I've seen only a handful of scrolls where the crowns were this elaborately embellished. And this one is definitely a unique one. So I have to tell you, the good news is I found the scroll. That's the great news. And it's not cheap. No, it's not. Like I said, it takes a scribe a whole year to write one. If I was to buy a brand new scroll, we're talking about $40,000, $50,000, like a nice car, right? That's what it is. I said, I don't know that we can swing a new scroll, but we could definitely take one that's a few years old and is still in good condition. And so this particular scroll, it's probably a little younger than me. Well, compared to what we have as pushing 200 years, I think that's pretty good. So it's not that old. It's not that old, and it's in very, very good shape. Like any scroll, it's going to have little things. It's going to have some areas that are a little darker because you are talking about skin. It's leather, and it ages. And as time goes by, some portions of it, might change shape or color. So you could see even our scroll has some areas that are gray, and this is what happens a lot of times with this particular type of lambskin that was treated. Sometimes instead of like turning yellow, it actually starts graying a little bit. It's just because of the way that it was treated. But look at this writing. Look at this. I fell in love with this scroll. I was shown 5 scrolls on that day. I sat down with the scribe, and he said, I have five scrolls to show you, but I think I know which one you're going to like. So we looked through all 5 of them, and we come back to that one, and I said, okay, you're right. This is the one I really like. And I showed it to David, I showed it to Brad, and they both liked this because the writing is just absolutely gorgeous. Look how uniform it is. The scribal work, the quality of the penmanship is just beautiful. I'm looking at this and like, look at how God's name is ornamented in a very special way. It has tiny little crowns, like not the triple crowns like you see, but there's a little crown coming off of the letter, each one of them. And that's actually how our scroll is written. Our scroll is written in the same exact scribal tradition. There are scribal traditions and there are scribal schools, and I can recognize a scroll very easily by looking at its writing. I could tell which part of the world it was written, and I could tell which particular scribal tradition was used to write the scroll. Now that kind of a sort of say knowledge comes only with handling a lot of scrolls. But the scroll that we have right now that we're using is written in Beit Yosef style, and so is this. Beit Yosef is Ashkenazi, European style of writing scrolls. A Sephardic way of writing scrolls is a little bit different. Their letters, the way they form the letters is a little bit different. The way the tops and the bottoms are shaped, the way the lines are is different. This past week, as we were reading Shoftim, and I was at the conference, they asked me to read from the Shoftim, and I was reading from the Sephardic scroll in Shoftim. I tell you what, I love our scroll much better. That scroll was, I hate to say this, it was not written beautifully. It's just the skill of the scribe was not there. And as I'm reading Shoftim, and I'm chanting off those verses, I recognize that our scroll is of such more superior quality, just because the writing is so artistic. That one, it was just plain. It was still a beautiful, nice, kosher scroll, but it was just so plain compared to what we have. So you could see, I brought this writing for you to just kind of take this in. This is why I felt like this is it. This is the scroll for us. The letters are just gorgeous. Here's a passage. This is what we sing in the morning. So when we pray, if you ever join us for Minyan, this is one of the prayers that we sing that's taken straight from the Torah. It's the Song of the Sea. It is one of the most easy to recognize passages in the Torah because it is poetry. It was written very differently. Rather than written in the standard, kind of a block, you could see that it's broken up by stanzas because this is meant to be sung. And we actually sing it. In the morning during worship, that's what we do. So, and look at the crowns. Look what happened to the crowns. The scribe really went to town on that one. He really wanted to embellish it. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really pretty. So you can see the way the scribes do justification with letters is they stretch out the letters a little bit. Look how long that letter is. Look at that. Look at these letters, how some of them are longer. But so that gives scroll that unique, absolutely one-of-a-kind work of art character. So when I looked at these, I said, this is an absolutely amazing, unique scroll. I haven't seen anything like this anywhere lately. Just bits and pieces here and there. Occasionally I see a scroll like that. But I've never seen one intact like this. So I said, okay, this is it. That's the one for us. So here's, I enlarged another passage. You can see the handwriting. So the good news, I found a scroll. And the search that I've been doing for a long time, I think is over. We're done, and just a matter of what's left is to get the scroll here. And it is being checked. It has a year warranty on it. And it's going to be delivered to us soon. It's going to be on its way. So it should be arriving right before the holidays. I'm going to go get it. It's coming from Israel. Okay. This scribe's in Israel, so he's bringing it over, actually. And I'm going to meet him and take it from him and carry it home. So has anywhere from between 10 to 12 passages. We call them parshas, right? Parshiot. This is what we read every week, right? And so the cost of the scroll, and some of you are like saying, how much? All of you are sitting over there saying, how much? The cost of the parchment itself is $25,000. But I told you, like for a year's work, this is a lot. So that scroll is worth it because it is so beautifully done and it's such a quality of work. And this is what's in it. So how are we going to handle this? We're going to have to pay for it because we need it. Because the scroll that we're reading from every week, you saw the pictures. It's fallen apart. It's just not serving us. It served us well for a long time. It served many communities probably. I'm sure we're not the first and may not even be the second community that used that scroll, but it's come to that time where we just need to use it on special occasions. But we need the scroll that we read from every week, and this is what it's going to take for us to get it. So there's several possibilities of how we can do this. You can sponsor a parsha, you can sponsor a chapter, you can choose to buy a whole entire book if you want to. Whoever wants to help to contribute to this. And this is, by the way, you realize this is a special occasion kind of an offering. This is a kind of a need that does not rise up all the time, and it's not, I took part. So maybe you can't just say, all right, I'm just going to write a check right now for 20. I mean, it is what it is, and many people are going through hard times right now. Everything is absolutely tighter, everything is more expensive, but here's a suggestion on what you can do. There are 54 parshas, and if a person donates $500 per parsha, that buys a parsha. That's all we need is 54 of those donations of 500, and the whole entire scroll is basically paid for. There are also 187 chapters in the Torah. If you took the 5 books of Moses and you counted all the chapters, there's going to be 187 chapters. And guess what? If you decide to sponsor a chapter for $200, after 187 of those types of gifts, it's paid for. It's really how it is. And I already have something marked up over here. You see this parsha right here, 12th one, Vayechi? That happens to be my wife's favorite parsha. And so as soon as Shabbat is over, that's what I'm doing. I'm sponsoring that one for my wife because that's what she likes. So we could do this. What I'm saying is that above and beyond what we normally give, because what we normally give to the synagogue is what keeps the budget. That's what keeps us operating. But this is the goal. And I think as a community, we can do this. And maybe there are people even outside of our community who would like a blessing and an opportunity to do something like that, to participate in paying for a scroll for a congregation that will be used for years and years and years. I guarantee you this scroll is going to outlast me. Because if the one that we have over here is basically 200 years old and we're still reading from it, all we have to do is take care of it and it will outlast all of us. Our children, grandchildren might be reading it, and that's a pretty amazing thought to consider of what kind of an investment we're making. When I'm buying a car, I'm not thinking that it's ever going to outlast me. But this holy item, this absolutely amazing handwritten text that comes to us from antiquity like that, and that's why I took you back to the days of Ezra and Nehemiah, because this is how long this tradition of writing scrolls and reading them publicly, that's how far back it goes. And we're just in line, just following the footsteps. We're just in that same line, continuing that tradition. And there are synagogues all over the world that continue to do that as well. And that's how God's word has never left us. Do you realize that if we haven't been copying these texts, and if we haven't been reading these texts, that knowledge could have been completely lost. Completely lost. And yet it's preserved, and it's preserved meticulously. It's preserved to the letter. The scrolls that they found in the Dead Sea, for example, they started comparing with the texts that we have today. They're more modern, and some of those that are over 2,000 years old, little tiny fragments, they're identical. Nothing has been changed. They're the same. The same words, same messages, same sentences, same ideas, same thoughts being expressed. So we are part of a pretty amazing tradition is what I'm trying to say. And today you have an opportunity. In the next few, in the near future, you have an opportunity to be a part of this story that just keeps on going. So I'm really excited about it. I'm thrilled about the scroll. I love it. I can't wait for it to get here. And I can't wait to unroll it, and I can't wait to show it to you guys what it is. But this is our goal. That's what we got to raise. This is how we're gonna have to by when I'm showing it to you. I don't know if you're excited about this as I am, or you're saying, how in the world are we gonna pay for this, Rabbi? I've been talking to a scribe basically, and so he's been looking for what he has available to him.
Old or pending payment, or is it
scroll,
going to be delivered?
The down payment has been made. It's ours. So he hold it for us. This is it.
Is there Torah insurance?
There is Torah insurance. There is Torah insurance. So like I said, the scribe is warranting. The scribe is warranting the scroll and its contents for an entire year. That means if we find any kind of defects, they'll fix it for us. As we read every week, we get to look through the text. We get to see what's happening. If there's something that's off, they check it for us. They manually check it, and then they computer check it. There's a special program that actually digitally scans the whole entire scroll to make sure all the things are in the right places. And it's like a character recognition type program, so it counts everything. It counts letters. It counts all the things. And then there's manual check, of course, and then we get to check it and inspect it for the whole entire year.
But like fire or whatever, theft.
That we have a liability insurance, and so that protects the damage to the property. Beyond that, we don't have. I'm sure there may be a product. I'm sure there's an insurance agent out there who would like to sell us a Torah insurance too.
I happen to know for sure, as I have one in my home.
Okay.
So, for my former congregation, you have to insure it specially. It's a special items insurance. They have to.
It's an additional rider.
What?
It's a rider.
It's a rider.
You have to, it's not even a rider under homeowners, it's a separate insurance. So
It's additional.
Yes, you have to, it's like you're insuring a work of art, just like if you had a painting that you were insuring specifically, that special value. They have to have an estimate, they have to come, the agent has to come look at it, or.
Save your receipt.
Yeah, so they have, this lady came to my house and I said, are you Jewish? Or, no. How can you evaluate the value of this? Is what I asked her. She said, I just have to give it my best guess. I'm like, well, okay, give me what you can give me. But I said it's a very special item. Mine's about 120 years old, out of Europe, described in Poland, but yes. And so, but yeah, we'll probably have to talk to our about once we have.
We can look into it. Good question.
One more question. Are they taking trade-ins? No.
No, they're not taking. It's not. I know. Yeah, no. I've been making car analogies, but that's not how it really works. No, we don't get to do that. Yes.
What are we gonna do with the old one?
We're gonna keep using it. It's still a holy item. Okay. Look, it's still. It's still usable for the most part. There are just some portions of it that have gotten old, but we can use it for the holiday readings and things like that. So it's still a special item for us, and so we'll hold on to it. If something else comes up, well, we'll hold on to it. Meanwhile, yes, Sharon.
How long do we have to pay for this?
I don't know. However long it takes us out.
Okay, so
Today,
there's no set.
I can have 5 people write $10,000 checks right now when we're done. I don't know. I have no idea. Yes, Danny.
Just for clarification, it will cost too much money to have ours repaired
Yes.
as opposed to buying them.
Yes. So you have to understand. So repairing a Torah is a meticulous task, and just like if you have an old car and you replace the tires and you say, well, it's time to rebuild transmission, and you rebuild transmission, and the next year your engine goes, and then you do that, and your carburetor goes, and that goes out, and you realize, like, after a while, keep pouring money into something that keeps breaking, it's not really good stewardship. So this is how it is with Torahs that get too old. Sometimes the amount of repair that they require is just too much to invest in order for next year different letters start to peel in a different spot, and all of a sudden you realize you're back where you were.
We'd also be without one.
Right, yeah. So it's sending it off to a scribe to repair, that means we'd have to send it off, and it's take a while, and then ship it back, and this being an old item, it's a problem. Having a scribe come here to repair it on site is also a very expensive proposition, as you can imagine. They'll be here a while just because there's too much fixing that needs to be done to get this scroll perfect. Yes, Karen.
Can you clarify on what Sharon asked, which is,
Yes.
do we have to pay for it up front, and then we collect whatever people can?
Right.
Yes.
So the way we're going to make this happen is we have some money in savings, and we're going to pay for it. So scribe obviously they want to get paid for it, and then we pay ourselves back to our savings. That's what will happen. So.
And also too, the $25,000 is only for the scroll.
Right.
We have to pay additional money for the rollers and for the embroidered cover. Those are made custom for each Torah. So right now we are simply trying to raise money. And just to recap what Peter said, you can sponsor a whole book for $5,000, a parsha for $500, a chapter for $200, and for those who that would be too much. There's also the suggestion of contributing towards a verse, and consider like a double high, that you would maybe contribute towards a favorite verse, if that's what you can do right now.
The idea is that all of us can take part in making this happen.
But it is like Lador Vador. This is not just for us, but also for our children. We've been blessed with, when we started the bar mitzvah class a year ago, we've got a dozen children. So, and that's just this class. So there's more, there's other children coming up in other classes. And so this will be used for so many
generations. For generations, yeah, that's what it is.
Like he said, they're gonna be saying cottage for us, they're still gonna be reading.
It's going to be reading from that Torah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
It's definitely on live us. So this is how we're making it happen. Is we have some money in the savings, so we're using that to get it. The main idea was to secure it first because I didn't want them to go. I didn't want somebody else to say I'll buy it, and they're like I want to hold it and then move them on. Yes.
For clarification on that, we have additional savings beyond what was designated as building.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we're keeping everything
keeping it
kosher.
kosher.
Yes.
And
Yes.
these
Right.
are, I used to be a diamond importer, and we always use like Brinks or something secure like that, but the Torah is even more precious. So a rabbi is bringing it from Israel to New York, and Peter's gonna go to New York and get it, and come right back the same day, like round trip, in one day to get it, because it's so precious. So if you'd like to contribute towards the transportation expenses, that's
Yeah.
also something.
Yeah, there are a few expenses beyond just the scroll itself. We're talking about parchment. Then there's the rollers. Then there's the cover. Then there's the transportation, things like that. So that's all part of a deal of getting it here to us, so that it can be kept here in our building. So wanted to show you something. We also want to make this Torah very special. We want to put a special dedication on it. We want to put an inscription on this Torah. And we thought about this, we pray about this, and this is because what's happening in our days like right now. We want to dedicate this Torah to the memory of all who lost their lives in the darkness of Shoah and in the October 7 war in Israel. And we want to dedicate it for the merit of each person who listens to the words of this Torah being read here each week as we read it. It is customary to put dedications, and a lot of times you would see on the mantle, there would be a dedication that's given to a particular name. Why? Because a family decides to do this in the memory of someone that is not with them anymore. So a lot of times you'll see special names inscribed on the Torah mantles. And so we decided to do one that covers many names. And so most of us in our families have been touched by the Shoah, and we still feel the effects of that tragedy. But last year, as we were celebrating Simchat Torah, October 7 happened. And that has changed many of our lives as well. Because never since the Shoah, we have lost that many people in such a terrible way. And so we want to dedicate this Torah to their memory, to the memory of all who cannot be brought back. They're gone. Some of these people may not have been very particularly religious, but you know what? They're gone. They're gone. And
It said when a Jew dies, it said we need to sanctify the name of God. And so this way, it's attached to the very words of God as well as we read them each week. So it's for the elevation of all the memories.
so we're focusing on the memory on the memory of people who lost their lives, but we're also focusing on the merit of each person who listens to the words of this Torah every time we read it. Because every time we read it, you hear those words, but you don't just. The job of our job is not just to hear, is to listen, and that means to obey, and that's really what the word "listen" actually implies.
Is that written somewhere?
That would be written on the mantle. It would be written on the Torah mantle. So this is the dedication that we would like to place on the mantle. So that's why I said mantles are custom made. I have some of the mantles that we use, here today. But custom made mantle would have this inscription at the bottom across, and that's what that scroll would be essentially known for. I think it's very symbolic that a year ago, such a tragedy happened on the day of the Simchat Torah. And I think it would be very symbolic a year later, on the day of Simchat Torah, for us to spend the money and to bless people in Israel who produce this Torah. Okay? Because Israel lives. That's the idea. Is to bless Israel and to bring this Torah all the way from Israel here and on Simchat Torah to have a new Torah and to say, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to disappear. We're not going to go away. We're not going to get quiet. We're going to continue to lift up God's name and read His words and proclaim His words week after week after week after week. That's the symbolic meaning of it. I hope you are catching on to the idea. You know, I've been looking, and I'm so excited that I found it now. Because I keep sending Brad notes and images and pictures of Torah scrolls saying, what do you think? What do you think about this one? Any more thoughts? Any more ideas? Any questions? Does this make sense? Does dedication make sense? Yes. So that will go on a mantle. Yes, Ramon.
Do we have a special ceremony after you receive it?
Yeah, of course. So when we get the Torah, obviously, you know, I would love for you guys to see it. It will not come with a mantle. You know, we can use one of the mantles that we have to keep it safe right now. We have extras, but then once the new mantle is made, we can have a special dedication ceremony, and it will be a big celebration. Production time on that depends how busy they are. You know.
Is that a company in Israel also?
Actually, that's a company in New York, so they'll do ham. So it's kind of cool like that. So we have to wait a little bit for the mantle, but every once in a while, as I go through this process, I just keep marking these off. I'll just keep highlighting these yellow as things happen. Okay, that's what I'm hoping to do until it's all yellow and it's paid for. That's the idea. So the QR code, by the way, you see it's just designated exactly for that. And so you'll see me emailing your stuff. You'll see a web page will go up eventually, and you can share that with other people. Because like I said, there could be people not in our community. There could be people who don't actually have a community who would say, I would like to be a part of something cool like that.
If you want to pay another way, you write a check, it's designated on the check what you're doing it for.
All you have to do is just say this is for the Torah Scroll.
You want to write a partial beside it or a
Yep.
chapter, whatever you want to do.
Yep, that's what it's about. So things like that. That's that's the plan. That's the goal, and I think it's really exciting. It's very symbolic to me. It's very meaningful to have a year later for us to be able to say, okay, we're going to. People may react with fear or anger towards war and things that are happening. And that's not how we're going to react. We're going to react with this action of hope and future, looking forward into the future, in the bright future, knowing that God has brought us through all kinds of things, and He will continue to do that. And Torah preserves many, many, many of those stories, and it tells us about His faithfulness. So that's what we're going to do. I think to me that's very, very symbolic. So that's my big announcement that I wanted to share with you guys. So it's a little bit of a teaching, a little bit of instruction, a little bit of explanation about the Torah scrolls. If you haven't, if you don't know much about Torah scrolls, you probably learned more than you need to. But there you go. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, good. So now what I ask you to do is I ask you to pray with me. Pray about what you can do, just you, your own family. Pray about whose hands this information might need to get into, because you have no idea that someone out there just says, I'll help out, and it will happen. Yes, Danny.
I was just going to say, that's something that happens all the time. We get anonymous or donations from random places that we don't even know anything about. They give us money.
We do. Things like that happen all the time. Things like that happen all the time. And so just you pray about it. You and your family pray about it. You think about it. I'm telling you what I'm already doing. I said I'm buying that one for Rachel, so I'm going to get that one reserved.
If you'd like to pledge for one, but you need a month or two to do it, then just say I'm paying for this part.
Yeah, sure.
And it'll be on hold.
Yeah. Absolutely, exactly. So just think about it, pray about it, and pray who you want to share this with, because like I said, I would not be surprised if people just say, I want to be in on that. I want to be a part of that. Not everyone has an opportunity like this in their lifetime to say, I helped sponsor this chapter in this scroll. And there it is, being used and carried every week after week after week. All right?
And if you, I'll say something else. If you do pledge and pay for a parsha, then you should also come up and be an aliyah.
That's right. Then you should come up here and read it because it's yours. It's yours. You should. It's. You stand right here. And
Well, on second thought.
That's right. Read the English, or you just stand and hold the roller right next to us as we're reading it. That's the whole point. Is being a part of this. It needs to be a part of our life. Okay, that's the key.
I would say stand near who reading and follow after the reading itself.
That is what, if you're an aliyah and you come to the blessing, that's why you hold the Eitz Chaim. The person, if Yosef is reading for you because you can't read it, that he is doing that in your proxy. So that's
yeah, and of course learn the blessing for the aliyah.
Yes.
At least that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time and for your attention on this